As I'm preparing to put this assembly back together, one of the things I'm going to do on the copper crush washers, like I have here in my right hand, I just take a nice clean flat file. This is a very good file. And I take the copper washer, just hold it under my index finger like that and work it back and forth on that flat file. And what I'm doing is I'm reconditioning the surface of the copper crush washer. You can do this with aluminum or alloy washers as well. I've done this many times over literally 45 or 50 years. And this does a really nice job, I don't know if you can probably see that or not, of reconditioning or resurfacing that washer. And you do that as long as it takes, within reason, of course. You don't want to make the washer too thin. I probably have crush washers that will fit this, but I'm going to reuse the originals here, and if I do get a little leak, then I'll just replace them later. But I usually, unless they're really damaged, try to clean them up like this and just resurface them, get them nice and flat, and then reinstall them. The washers that have the vinyl or rubber insert, like you can see right there, you don't do that with, obviously, because you'll end up abrading that vinyl right away. So those you don't do anything. So you can see I have all the pieces laid out. I got the repaired pump. The gasket is back in place. I've cleaned everything up at the engine side, as well as everything here is prepared, ready to go back together. So now it's just a matter of reversing what we did a little while ago to reinstall the pump. So we've got everything about ready to go back together. You will notice that sometimes these oil feed lines will weep a little oil. This is back feeding oil that was in the oil line. Very hard to prevent, so you just do the best you can to keep everything clean, and you just have to accept a little bit of that. One of the key elements here you have to pay attention to is this drive pinion right here. You can see it's got a protrusion that fits into a slot in the end of the drive gear. You can't see that probably from your perspective, but up underneath here there's a slot that fits into. So you want to make sure that you get that angle right here that will line up with the slot. You might have to work it around a little bit, but that's approximately the angle. The slot in the end of the drive gear is fitting or sitting something like that, a slight downward angle at the rear. So I've got this aligned, I think, approximately that same degree. And again, I might have to fuss it around a little bit. I also have the gasket already up in there. I attached to the engine case with a little grease just to hold it in place. It gets a little tricky sometimes if you're wrestling around with trying to get the pump up underneath there and get that drive to line up. And I try to hold the gasket in place, prevent it from slipping around. It can be a little bit tricky. So let's see if we can go ahead and get this mounted back in place. There. I heard it slip in. Now I'll take one of the screws with the crush washer on it. If we can't get that started. And then we'll go do the other one. Make sure that our gasket didn't slip down, and it didn't. Now I'm just going to snug these up hand tight right now. I'm not going to overdo it. Again, you're going into an alloy or an aluminum, so you don't want to get crazy with it. I don't know if they have a torque specification on these two screws. If they do, it's very light. It's very light. That will probably be okay. I'm not too concerned about it. Now what we need to do is put these banjo fittings back in place, and again, just make sure everything's clean. There'll be a fitting on each side of the mounting boss. There's one. Get this cable out of the way. There's two. And again, when you go to tighten these fittings down, let me slip this down underneath like that so I don't have to mess with that later. When you go to tighten these fittings down, I like to hold the plastic part with the little brass sleeve with one hand if I can, and then just gently snug these up. Again, you don't want to overdo it. If anything, I will go on the low side, and I'd rather have them weep a little bit, and then I can snug them up and go too tight and run the risk of stripping something out. Again, there might be a torque setting on these. I'm not sure right off the top, but there probably is. Swing this back around. I'm not going to bother cleaning up those crush washers. Those aren't alloy or aluminum right now. I'm just going to snug this down temporarily. Last thing I'll do is reconnect this oil line. Now reconnect the cable. Make sure it fits in the guide right here. And we're pretty much back where we were when I first brought you in to this. What I'm going to do now, because I'm going to have to get my head in here, I'm just going to reconnect this oil line to the input right here, and I'm going to probably get my head in the way, so I'm just not going to record that because I'm going to lean down in to see it, and I'll bring you back in a few minutes. Well, as you can see, we got it all back together and got it running. The first spark plug I followed right away. I think there's a little oil residue in the lower end, and when I went to start it, followed the spark plug right off the bat. So I changed that spark plug, and then I got it started. It didn't really want to run very well, and it ended up following that second spark plug, I think for the same reason. I am now on the third spark plug, and it seems to run just fine. So I'll check the plug color a little bit later after I run it, but it seems to be running really well right now. I did purge the oil pump of the air. I've discussed that before. In fact, I might have even shown it in previous videos. Real easy to do. You just bring the RPMs of the engine up to about 2,000 or so, and then you hold that lever that the cable wraps around the spool, hold that wide open until all the air bubbles disappear and you've got nothing but oil flowing through your clear lines. That'd be, for instance, this line right here. Then you've got your oil pump purged. So I just did that off camera because I think I've talked about that before. So let's go out and take it for a ride. I've not ridden it yet, and get it out in fresh air. It's a little smoky right now, not surprising because of got a mixture in the tank. The oil pump is purged. Probably still a little residue on the lower end, so we'll sit up outside and I'll just take it for a little ride down the driveway. Well, I think we've completed the repair of the oil pump on this 1973 Kawasaki F11 250 Enduro. You just saw a little short clip of me riding it the first time. This is the first time in 2 years the bike's actually been ridden. And outside the little oil pump problem we just sorted out, it ran really good. It is smoking a little bit right now, not surprising, given the fact that I'm running a mix, oil mix in the tank right now, which now I will remove and put straight non-ethanol, or what we call in our area recreational fuel. There's no ethanol in it, straight gasoline. Put that in the tank, and then for the balance of this riding season, I'll keep an eye on that oil pump and ride it probably weekly around the yard. But generally speaking, I think we got it all squared away. I put it back in the stand here, only there's a couple other things I want to check. I want to go over while I've got it kind of out and working on it. I'm going to check the clutch adjustment, make sure the brakes are adjusted right. And just go over the bike before I just put it in line and becomes a summer rider for the rest of the season. So that's why I put it back in on the stand right now, and a couple other things I want to finish up. We're going to bring this video to a close now, folks. Any issues, questions, thoughts, drop me a note. Otherwise, as usual, thanks for watching.